Hey, we're on.
Okay, so we're going to start with a small kind of um, I don't want to say what synap. Was that the right word? Synapsis?
Synopsis.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yep, synopsis.
Yes. You guys already talked a little bit about this. I'm assuming since we were on previously.
Yeah, he pretty much just needs to find someone new to hire because the old guy's leaving.
Yeah. So how did you guys break that down with problems that you
Well, we
saw in his process?
tell you the truth, we didn't talk a whole lot. We've more talked about Craig's business with his dogs,
With
but
his
but
Okay.
we didn't really break anything down.
Okay. Yeah. There's some obvious problems with how he's going about choosing his, next candidate. He seems to be befuddled and not having a very clear idea. He doesn't have a very set system that he goes through. He kind of was winging it the whole time.
Yeah.
Um, there was really no basis to analyze and think about what factors were more important, even though he knew what was important. He just didn't have any way of prioritizing or ranking those. Um, what are some of the things that you guys saw as being problems in this situation?
Well, I saw that. Okay, remember how it said that a guy named Tom had warned um, Stephen previously that Peter was looking at leaving or finding a new job or something. So, I mean, he could have totally capitalized on that and called in Peter, said, "Hey, when do you think you're leaving? So I can try to fill your spot now, or something like that,
Right.
or even just
Yeah.
start looking."
Um,
Yeah, I think that's a big problem with businesses. They get like in the routine and everything, and they don't think a big change will ever happen. So they don't really worry about it, and then stuff like this comes up, and they get screwed. But I think it's like fair because they don't really have to deal with this stuff all the time. It's not like they're dealing with like major players who are leaving and hiring major players like super often on a day-to-day basis. So I could see it like why it could be like frustrating or new to them, if that makes sense.
yeah, I thought about that. I didn't really talk about it, but I it was kind of strange that there was no HR support though to help him with this process. He was kind of by himself on his own.
Yeah.
Um, so to continue, who do you guys think? Um, who would you hire and why?
David all the way, because okay, so here's the thing: if David doesn't, okay, so Rena wants the higher position. If Rena doesn't get that higher position, I think she's going to leave. But if David comes in who has all this experience and starts to train Rena, then I think, first of all, Rena will stay. I think Rena is a really good asset to the company. So, first of all, Rena would stay and learn a lot so that when David retires, since he's old, he's going to be retiring pretty soon. I mean, probably within 10 years, then Rena will have all the skills she needs to take over. That's my opinion. And Brandon's opinion was to hire Seth because he said that Seth has all the qualities of David, just doesn't have the name. But I don't agree with that. I think David has a lot more qualities than Seth. In fact, I think the girl, I forgot her name, I think she would be a better pick than Seth. But yeah.
What about you, Craig? What are some pros and cons that you saw in the candidates, and who would you hire and why?
I don't know. Wait, so it was Sarah who went to the college, right? Or she went to all the schooling you were talking about earlier?
It
Oh,
I don't think that was her name, but
No, there was Rena, who was the
oh,
lady at the already at the company, RSH, and then there was the other lady who was at a smaller boutique firm outside the city. I don't remember her name.
I don't remember hers either.
Well, do you guys think that promoting within the company is a bad thing?
I don't think it's a bad thing, but in this situation, I don't think it would work because, what's her name, Rena, like people went to Steven's office and said, "Hey, we don't like what Rena's doing," so and Steven was like, "Don't worry, we're looking for someone," and then they were all relieved. They're like, "Oh, good, they're trying to figure out this problem."
I don't think
And
they.
it said
I
that,
don't,
like,
I don't,
oh, go ahead.
there was some positive feedback though from Rena too. She had been improving, according to Steven. She had been improving during the 3 weeks or whatever, 4 weeks that had gone by. There's also positive. There were some people who really knew she was very well knowledged and had a thorough grasp for the industry. But it seemed like her drawback was her confidence and her ability to present, because when she's doing her self-talk, she admits that she's kind of an introvert. So, there are some. It's kind of a mixed bag, but yes, you're right. The two college, replacement.
Right.
So they were obviously inferring that they didn't want her to be the permanent replacement. But it's noted that Steven is the one who started the training program and is the one that also is, it says that there's a culture of training junior analysts and having them move up to senior analysts, so that's a culture in the company. So I thought that Steven was really kind of going against the stated culture of the company by not even officially interviewing her or, having a process where he could really analyze her strengths and weaknesses. He just kind of said, well, if I don't find anybody better, then maybe I'll consider you, instead of, well, let me consider her now while I'm considering these other people, so that it can be more fair to what he has, tried to set up within the culture of the company, as far as giving people that are in the company, a fair shot.
So I actually put that as one of my problems, that he didn't give her an official interview. But then I was thinking about it later, and I was like, well, if she's still level 1 or whatever is before 2, I don't know if it goes 1, 2, 3 or 3, 2, 1, but if she's not that level 2 yet, then that's probably why he's not giving her that official interview. But I think he should have still given her that official interview, because what if she's almost at that point? Because I think Seth had just become level 2, and I don't know about...
Rena's not ranked. She's not ranked in the IL, whatever standards.
Right.
That are, she's not ranked, but yeah, Seth was a runner-up. If you look at the exhibit, it is ranked. I think it's ranked 1, 2, 3, and then runner-up, and then the rest of the people underneath. And Peter, I think, or David, I think, is Peter was ranked number 2, and I think David is number 1 or 2 as well, or number 3, something like. They're up there. Anyway.
Yeah.
Didn't he say he didn't like David because he's too old?
Yeah, they want somebody to stay there for a long time. So that's a huge con, not a pro for him.
Right, but I mean, Rena can take over at that point, though.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Yeah.
But I mean, it didn't say how long David would be there for sure, did it?
No.
Just that he was old.
Yeah, it didn't even say how old.
I don't
Well,
know
if
if
you go
it's
down to the profiles, you can see when he graduated college, and you can kind of deduce his age. He's about 10 years or so older than Seth. Seth is not a young buck. He's been at that company for 15 years. He's just more of
Yeah.
like in the middle of his career, not towards the end.
Right, I saw that. When
So,
I
Craig,
oh, go ahead.
did you say who you would hire and why?
Yeah, I said David.
No,
Yeah.
Craig.
I'd probably say David too. Like I don't even care that he's that old because I think by that time, if they have a good training like program to go into it, or if they have someone in mind, if he only has that much time, there's less of a chance that he's gonna like switch companies. That makes sense, like the other guy did. So this could be like his last gig, and so they know when he's gonna retire. They know they have to get someone else to kind of replace him, and that he can train the next person coming in. If that makes
That's
sense.
a good point too. They know exactly when he's going to retire.
Or like ballpark-ish, He's not gonna like just leave all of a sudden. He's gonna give him heads up and that thing.
All right. Well, there's an additional piece of information that we've been given during this case study discussion, and that is the salary information that they currently get paid and the salary information of what they would be offered or expected to be paid at RSH when they get hired. So I'm going to show this to you, see if you guys can see it. I could read it to you, but let me see if I can just show it to you. And then I want you to think about if this changes your mind as far as the different factors that influence a hire as how it will affect the company. So I'm just going to I'm going to hold it up and see if you guys can read. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, I can't see the names though.
Okay.
So David's at 1-3 right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's decent.
Yeah. That I think that does change my mind. Say something again, so you're on the big screen again.
Oh, yeah. So I don't know if it'll show is it putting me up?
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
the big screen? Okay. So there's also this analysis of they're comparing these salaries, sorry, let me move it up, to the base being Rena's salary and how many times more that person is paid compared to Rena. So if you can see, Sonia is going to be 2 times more, Seth is going to be 3 times more, Gerald will be 4 times more, and David will be 5 times more.
Yeah, that definitely does change my mind because I put Sonia at second place. I didn't really like Gerald. I liked Sonia. I forgot why I liked Sonia. Hold on.
So would that does that change your mind about who you would hire?
It does because that's paying 1.5 million a year, whereas you can just be paying Sonia 0.7, and she's already she's already ranked as 2, I think, and
she was actually mentioned as an honorable mention on she was an up and coming for them as being ranked. The reason why it seems like she's not ranked is because she's not on a big platform. She's not with a recognized or a large enough, financial institution to be, I think, looked at seriously enough.
Yeah.
But I personally, I actually picked Sonia before. I was kind of split between Sonia and Seth, but her attitude and her natural strengths seemed to be stronger than Seth. Seth seemed a little bit too eager to leave and finicky. So I just saw my basis was the fact that she had basically no support staff, and she was still accomplishing like a ton, like more than some of these other guys as far as her. She had connections with not just CEOs, but like mid-level management, and it mentioned that like a lot of times that's where you get your real information about what's happening in a company. And I think she just had some natural stronger strengths, not necessarily the same level, obviously, as David. He's well known, and I get the clout that comes with him, and I think that would be a good choice, but especially based on this salary information, I would go with Sonya.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, just to diss on Seth a little bit more, during the interview, um, it seemed like Seth was trying to make his way up and using other like different jobs to get to his desired position. So I mean, even though he said that's not what he's doing, I think that is what he's doing. So I don't think he'd be staying with this company very long. So yeah, I would definitely say Sonya now. I mean, that would save the company a lot of money. And I mean, it it is risking having Rena leave, but I think Sonya is worth having Rena worth the risk, I guess.
So Sonya was only 2 times the amount of what's her name, right? Rena or whatever.
Yeah, correct. Rena is at 0.3, and they would give Sonya a 0.7, so 700,000.
Yeah, it's a big
Which
gap
is
between her
interesting.
and dude. It's like $1 million, right?
Yeah,
Between her and the number one guy, David or whatever.
yeah, almost $1 million. Yeah.
Is he worth $1 million more?
No.
That's hard to say.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think Sonya would be number one now just because of the pay scale.
Yeah, she seems confident enough to be the senior analyst, just based on the fact that she's already been a huge leader within her own financial institution. She's led the way for global, like she's interested in actual global accounts as well. So I see her even expanding RSH and doing things that maybe no other senior analyst had done before. But I see a lot of potential in Seth. I mean, he states that his interest is. I mean, he was with the company for 15 years. He states that if he could just be with RSH, but yeah, that mentality is like, yeah, if it doesn't work out, then maybe he'll change his mind. So one question on here was, should Steven have talked with a recruiter to ask about Seth to get a better picture of who he really is?
I think definitely, yeah, because I mean, all he has is this lady named Miss Anderson, who, I mean, who knows? Like maybe, yeah, maybe they're really good friends. I think, what's his name? Craig should have done a little bit of research on Seth for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Craig. I think Steven wasted some time. I mean, it says that he was like under pressure to get this decision done, and then he goes. I mean, I understand why he's a recruiter because he doesn't want like everyone knowing that they lost their senior analyst and have other analysts start scratching their heads, going, maybe I can leave too. And I understand that, but I mean, eventually the word is going to get out, and it's only a matter of time before everyone understands what's going on. I don't understand why he's worried about internal people leaving, because internal people already know that Peter's gone. So, I mean, obviously he might be worried about other people trying to recruit them, is what I gathered from why he used Craig. But he lost probably like 3 weeks just sitting and waiting for Craig to get back to him before he could even start interviewing. So that's why I thought there was a problem with the company with not using an internal HR person. Like, why don't they have an internal person that has the ability to, just do the legwork? Because Steven said, I know how to do this. I know where I can get my information. I just don't have time. And if you didn't have time, there should be someone inside the company that they can rely on. And maybe external recruiters are more effective, but they take longer. So that's something that the company should evaluate. I understand that a senior analyst hire doesn't happen very often, or a changeover, but there has to be a lot of other hirings going on in the company. So they should have some type of team of HR. But just what I thought it was interesting that it wasn't even mentioned.
Yeah.
Soon.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, Rena did step up, like it was saying. So I mean, I think she was doing good enough for the 3 to 6 weeks during that, or the 3-week wait up to the 6-week interview process. So I think she was doing fine. I think the situation went good. I just think if he started a little earlier, like when Tom had been warning him.
Yeah, I made that point too. He could have easily been looking before.
Yeah. So.
Craig, did that salary information change your mind?
Definitely, I say Sonia.
Yeah, I do too. I think the wage or the wage gap is like way too big to justify like an extra $1 million a year. And it seems like Sonia is like an up and coming thing. Like she hasn't worked. Like I think it was saying that she works with like smaller stores, right? Like she hasn't really worked in a big corporate place. Is that what it's?
Yeah.
Okay, but I still think that she could have like the skills to come in and to adapt. And it sounds like people that knew her were really impressed with her. So I think she could do it.
Yeah, I don't remember it saying that she knew like CEOs and other things, so I guess I just trust you on that. But yeah, so since that's, I mean, if that's true, then I think she would definitely be the best person. Like David has a lot more, but he's going to be retiring soon anyway, so he's not going to have all those clients.
Yeah, even the clients he has, I think, might wonder why he's all of a sudden switching at the end of his career. They could see that as a sign of weakness, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it just depends on the perception of that person. Who knows? But yeah, it did mention that she had good contacts. I mean, maybe not as many and as trusted, as long-standing as David, but like you said, is that worth $1 million a year? So.
Yeah, no, I say Sonia, and I mean, are those pay scales correct? Like, why can't he start her out at 600,000 instead of 700,000? That's already a $200,000 pay raise.
Yeah. Who knows if it's just an incentive, because he has to have some kind of incentive to move over. And he probably expects it, so.
Yeah.
So did you guys talk about human capital at all and transferability as far as like the pluses and minuses of the people who already had a team and they already have like a team that works and they have relationship and trust with their team versus people who don't have a team coming with them?
We didn't talk about that.
Yeah, but did you analyze that at all?
No, I didn't. I hadn't even thought of that.
So that was something that there was that worksheet that was attached to the case study link.
Oh shoot! Yeah, I forgot to read that.
Yeah, it's called General Human Capital and Transferability. So it kind of analyzes the different types of human capital and how easy that crosses over when you make a change somewhere. So like the highest on that list that was easy to transfer was like your skills and like knowledge. The lowest is that's really hard to transfer is obviously like internal knowledge of the workings of a company. So like the company human capital, which is, you know, kind of like all the ins and outs of that specific company. Like the procedures and culture, and obviously that's not going to transfer because if you're going to a different company, it's going to be totally different. So it's like a whole new learning curve that takes time, and something that would, you know, be harder to understand unless you have two companies that are like very similar, which is not going to probably happen. Then you have a relationship human capital, which, you know, you have established relationships with colleagues and people in the company, and so that's also hard to transfer over. Yeah, so the top is just like general skills and technical knowledge, so that's easy to transfer over. It's very that comes with the person, and it says this is highly portable because they can. It says executives must develop new general management human capital, such as interacting with investors as well as with boards. Like when CEOs get transferred, they take on new jobs with expanded capabilities. Strategic human capital is expertise gained from experience in situations that require specific strategic skills, such as cutting costs, driving growth, maneuvering in a cyclical market. This type of human capital is portable, meaning you can transfer it. So it's just like stuff that you've always done, you know, like something that you should already know how to do. It's easy to transfer to a different job. It applies to a lot of different like CEOs that they're going to do the same thing with one company, and they're going to apply those skills to the next one. And there's a few that are in between that are a little bit lower than the general skills, like certain strategic skills that might apply to a certain like industry would not be as transferable. And then they have industry, which is like more technical. Oh no, that's unique to industry. Sorry, strategic is, I don't know. It looks like it's like specific strategic skills. Well, I guess that's also highly portable. Anyway, so that just kind of gives a rundown as far as certain things that can transfer really easy to when you move jobs, and certain things that are a lot harder to transfer over, that are going to take time and essentially, you know, just resources. It's money for a company, and that person has to take time to develop trust and new relationships and understand the culture of a company and understand the routines and procedures and all that stuff. So I don't know if that's something that you considered in your case analysis. But one thing that I thought was interesting is that the reason why I didn't pick David as well, I just remembered, is that Stephen mentioned that they were on the semiconductor industry is also cyclical, and they were at the top right then, and then they were about to go. He's like, he knew for the next year or two they were going to be like on a downturn, and so that, I don't know, that could be a case for hiring somebody that, you know, at least for the first few years, you need somebody who already knows, has a lot of contacts. But I just thought that might be, no, you're spending a lot of money and you're not going to be getting a lot of money back.
Yeah.
If you pick David. Whereas Sonia, I could see her seeing it more as an opportunity and a challenge to continue making money in that industry.
Yeah, I can see that as well. Yeah, I think you're right with with David's with his salary. I think you're right, that would be a bigger hit for the company when they're not making as much. You said they're not going to make as much money over the next couple of years, right?
Yeah, the industry. Steven's like, yeah, the industry is going to be in a downturn in the next 2 years, so they're not going to have as many profits from the deals that they're closing with, you know, people investing. If people investing know that it's a downturn, you know, I would assume, I'm not an expert, but I would assume that they don't, when there's a downturn, they don't pull in as much money as they normally would.
Yeah.
How much was Peter being paid? Do you know?
Yeah, it doesn't say on the sheet what Peter's pay was. That's interesting, Justin. I didn't thought of that, but that would be interesting to know. That would play into how much the company would lose or gain by hiring the next person.
Yeah, because if he was being paid, 1.5 million already, maybe Seth would be the best at that point. But I don't know. I think Sonya. I'm going with Sonya all the way still.
I agree. Hey, I gotta get running. I gotta go to work, but I will see you guys next week here.
Okay.
Sorry to cut it
Okay.
short.
That's okay. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, see you guys.
Yeah. All right, Sarah.
So,
what other
our
questions?
other group member Brandon had an appointment, and Howell has a electricity problem in Ghana.
Yep.
So, let's just go ahead and conclude. I know we had some technical issues. There's one last thing that they wanted us to ask and to think about is do you think that the performance of one candidate can transfer over to a different firm and guarantee high performance at a new firm or a different firm?
Oh, that's interesting. Well, it depends on the personality. In fact, I went to a workshop last night about like interviewing and stuff, and that's one of the main things they look at is personality. Like, can you work with my kind of personality? Because they're saying if you have the interview, then you have the qualities. Like the resume can show all your qualities. They're not going to give you the interview if you can't have qualities. So what they're mainly looking at is are you going to be fun to work with? So I mean, it seems like Sonya had that down. So did David. I don't think Gerald at all had those capabilities, but yeah, I mean, I think because you are working with new people, so I think it'll change a little bit, but I don't think it'll change a whole lot.
Yeah, like it's kind of interesting because they mentioned how Gerald's team, like he treated him like crap, but they still would agree to move over with him because they know he was good. Like he's still like technically and knowledge wise, he's just like super smart and he still pulls everything together. So even though his team doesn't like him, they're still willing to move with him, which I thought was really interesting because
Yeah.
I think you'd have to be a pretty mature person to just not not let that affect you every day and just realize that this guy is helps us as a team to bring in commission or sales for the company, which both boosts their own salary. So that's obviously maybe enough motivation for them to stay with him.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting to see that if someone's performing really well at one company, I agree, they probably should be able to still perform really well at a new company. But I think it depends on the company too, and like what your position is dependent on. Like this is really like obviously combined kind of, they're on the sell side, so they're they have to be able to like have these awesome reports and have really good research and be able to like show that to their clients and have them clients make these investments based on their research and sell it to them, and they have to do really good at that. So I think where it almost is a little bit commission based, whereas like a different company is not so much like dependent on your like your salary isn't so dependent on your ability to sell or have like certain or to perform. I think it kind of depends on the company and how it's set up. Anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Okay. Next question.
So,
is there any more questions? Or
there's one other question,
okay.
and I think we already kind of covered it, but yeah, we covered it. It's basically if Steven should have let Peter go in the first place, which I know you that's what you brought up, that he didn't even like make an effort to try and keep him really.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think once you have your mind set on leaving, I think you're gonna leave anyway. But I think Steven could have at least found out when he's gonna be leaving. But then I think that would make it awkward on Peter's part, like, oh, I'm leaving. So, um, and then what if he didn't? What if he didn't leave? you know?
Yeah, the other two things I thought about with Peter was Steven could have easily have gotten maybe a little bit more information about why he was leaving, so that he could kind of analyze that and think about maybe how he could prevent him, somebody else from leaving for the same reason, or just be aware of like all the reasons why he was leaving, because it didn't say that he never like really talked to him. Usually when you leave a company, you talk to your boss and say, even if it's the last day, you like have some type of exit interview or some type of like discussion as to why you're leaving, or your thoughts about maybe who should be take your place, or I don't know, something like that. So it's kind of weird that like he just decided to let him go, and there was no discussion, about mentioned about why. And if Peter would have said, hey, this is maybe you guys should be looking at this is why I'm leaving, and maybe you should be hiring somebody for blah blah reasons, and Steven could take that into consideration. I don't know.
Because even like if it was for pay, I don't think that's what it was for, but if it was, then he could even offer him a higher salary. I mean, if he's even considering David, who's 1.5 million, like I'm sure he could raise up the salary, a little bit, like even 1,000 or so. I don't think Peter was getting paid as much as David's salary would be. So I mean, I think there's a little bit of room for pay raise.
Yeah. Yes. There. Obviously, he didn't want to go there because it said, well, I could have offered him more compensation, but he never offered it to him. So Steven, for some reason, was already like okay with him, I guess, leaving.
Yeah.
But and it's interesting that Gerald, that's like the first thing that he asked about, I think, was compensation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's like certain things that turn people off when you're hiring them. Like you don't want to be asked about compensation. That kind of says where your motivations are for being hired.
Right. And that's actually something that was a plus for Sonia. I think that was the very last question. Like even Steven was thinking like, why hasn't she asked about pay?
Yeah, and she did it in a nice way. It was very tactful. She wasn't like, what's your compensation? She was like, so what's the comparison to like what people make in our industry on Wall Street? She just wanted to get an idea of, what some of the higher ranked people were making so that she could gauge instead of saying outright, because I mean, she obviously knew that he wouldn't be able to give her an exact number because it's partially based on their performance. So she did it. She asked in a way that was appropriate to the industry that she's in, and it was a smart. Though it was just a smart way of asking. It was appropriate.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, she did. She gets an A+.
I agree. I liked everything about her. Plus, they spent like a whole page. She had like all these questions about the culture, and her questions I thought were interesting because they were more focused on the lowest transfer or portability of human capital. She realized the things that she would have to be getting used to, the things that were probably totally different than where she was working currently, and she realized how much time it would take to develop those relationships and to learn about RSH's culture. And I remember at one point Steven in his head was like, man, she's asking a lot of questions about the culture, and so that shows that she recognizes that those things are going to be the hardest things for her to kind of overcome and get used to, and she was already like learning about it just by asking him.
Yeah, that the same thing. Okay, so I think Sonia and David had the best questions because both made Steven think, oh, I've never had these questions. In fact, David had one like where he made Steven think like, well, who's giving the interview here? So I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, I think both of them had the best questions, which is why they were my 1 and 2. I think Gerald and Seth had just general questions that everyone asks.
Yeah. So, what were some of the key concepts that you noticed overall to conclude?
Key concepts? Well, I noticed that Reina really wanted that job as a permanent thing, even though I don't think she deserves it yet because she's not ranked. And then, I mean, I guess it was mainly about the interviews. I think that was the peak. So, I don't know. I guess that the interviews. I guess Steven liked all of their interviews because he wanted the company to have a second interview and have them do some things and make or see if they fit into the culture. So I guess Steven liked all of them.
Yeah, I thought it was good that he brought them in to see how other people would react to them and how they would perceive them as people. And I think that was smart to get that kind of feedback because, even though he's the director, these other people are the ones going to be, having to work with them, except for, David would be bringing in his own team. But just to let them know that, hey, this is a team culture, and, there's cooperative environment, so it's important for you guys to, kind of understand who the people are that you're going to be around and collaborating with in this kind of in this place. But I also thought that Steven could have done a little bit better job with kind of analyzing and having like a criteria list as far as like the priorities, like what ranked high for him and what ranked low as far as importance for their skills and for their natural strengths and weaknesses. I think he would have been able to like evaluate them and compare them to each other better if he had like a set like criteria or list of things that were like the most important versus like things that were not as important to him, or and that other people could have helped out with that list too. Like if people in the company had their own list of criteria of what was important to them and why, and then handed that back to Steven, because he didn't make any mention like the whole case study. It was just like his own thoughts. He never, it didn't say that he ever wrote anything down or had any kind of list or had any like permanent way of keeping track of who he thought was the best and who he thought was maybe, some of the weaknesses that certain people had, so that he could kind of like make a better, it would have been easier, I think, on him to make a better, an easier decision for him to at the end, instead of having tons of information from feedback and from calling people and from his own people in his own company and then what his own thoughts were. I think that was overwhelming.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that goes back to what you said before, that it was all he was just winging it, which he was.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he was winging it. It seemed like, and probably like I don't know if it was you or Craig said that it's because he probably doesn't do it very often. So yeah. I totally understand that, but at the same time, I think he would have like had an easier time if he had a better system of keeping track of what he wanted to see the next person, instead of like getting all this advice from all different types. Like he got advice from that other senior analyst, he got advice from or input from like all different, there's feedback from all these different places, and there was no way to organize the feedback and make it so that it was, like not like an Excel spreadsheet, like dumb detailed, but he could have done something to like kind of narrow it down. He didn't need to be like a geek about it, but he could have been more organized about it.
Yeah, you're definitely right. Like
Okay. Well, I have to get going. Thanks for staying with me for a few more minutes.
Yeah, no problem. So we discussed that since Hal, he doesn't have a lot of or his technology over in Ghana isn't the best. We're just gonna restart the cycle. So I'm gonna be the group leader next week.
Okay.
Okay, and
Sounds
then
good. Well, I think,
what?
no, go ahead.
Would it be beneficial if I said on the email like, hey, if you want to come a little early, I'll show you how to set up something for the set it up.
Yeah, so you're not doing it. That's not fair to you. So.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, I'll do that, and I'll figure out how to. Well, do you know how to show your screen on this thing or no?
Yeah, we were doing it yesterday with another group. Actually, I think we were doing it with Skype, not Google Hangouts.
Yeah, I know how to do it with Skype.
Screen share. Yeah, there's a little button.
Oh, my wife's used this, so she just said she knows how to do it. So.
Yeah, there's a button over left on the icon that says screen share. So I don't know if it's as easy as pushing that, but.
Oh well, let me press and see.
Try it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, do you see that entire screen?
Well, put something else up on your screen. Like,
right.
Still your camera.
Okay. Oh
yeah.
That's
weird.
Okay.
Yeah, that works.
Okay. Can you see that? It's the.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So I could have done that with our whatever salary shot.
Right. Yeah. When you started talking about it, I brought it next week a little bit early so that we can all figure out how to do it.
Yeah, I knew how to do that. I just didn't even think to do that for the salary stuff, so you guys can see that easier. Anyway, yeah, that'll be helpful if we have something like that everyone needs to take a quick look at.
For sure. Okay, so I'll send you this link. I'll email it to you so that you can just post it.
All right, thanks, Justin.
No problem. See you later.
See you next week.